Green Nation, take a deep breath, because what we just witnessed is not for the faint of heart. It was one of those moments only this team can deliver, a massive triumph with huge implications for the future, wrapped in an offensive performance that left everyone in Philly scratching their heads. The city felt the energy, the result shook up the entire conference race, but at the same time, it lit a warning sign no fan can ignore. Before we dive in, smash that like button if you're a true Birds fan, and drop a comment if you can, something like, "Go Eagles!" Now buckle up, because today's talk is going to be direct, intense, and without any sugarcoating. Let's get into it. For 2 straight games coming out of the bye, the defense has dragged this team to wins against desperate, top-tier opponents in conditions that demanded toughness and resilience. They shut down Green Bay on the road, something no team had done to a Packers group that hadn't dropped consecutive games at Lambeau in over a decade. Then, on a short week, they held down a Detroit Lions offense loaded with talent, despite the Lions missing 3 of their top defensive backs. Yet instead of celebrating a dominant stretch, fans are left analyzing how an offense built with this level of firepower put up just 10 points in Green Bay and 16 points against Detroit. And when you break it down, the issues are layered. Jalen Hurts, who not long ago carved up Minnesota's top-ranked pass defense for over 300 yards and then followed it up with a 4-touchdown performance against the Giants, suddenly looks like he's fighting himself again. The weather might have been rough, but the conditions didn't stop the opposing offenses from throwing the football. Hurts simply missed throws, several of them the layup variety that extend drives, flip field position, and take pressure off a defense that's already carrying more than its share. And this isn't new. We've seen these cold stretches before, the kind that make you wonder how the same quarterback can look unstoppable one week and uncertain the next. And part of the context behind his roller coaster play is something many casual fans never mention: the constant turnover at offensive coordinator. The list spans Lane Kiffin, Brian Daboll, Mike Locksley, Lincoln Riley, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, and Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen again, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, and now Kevin Patullo. Year after year, system after system, Hurts has rarely had continuity, and while great players find ways to rise above it, as Hurts often has, it's impossible to pretend it doesn't affect his rhythm, his trust, and the timing that drives elite offense. But even acknowledging that, the truth remains, there are throws tonight he simply has to hit. This offense is also wrestling with its own internal dynamics. A.J. Brown, once again frustrated with his targets, created enough noise that it required a meeting involving Big Dom and even owner Jeffrey Lurie. And when you make that kind of public statement, you need to back it up with plays. Instead, the offense force-fed him the ball, and it didn't help. A deep ball he gave up on, another pass that slipped through his hands even before it was tipped. Those are moments that stall an offense already struggling to find a spark. Meanwhile, DeVonta Smith, who has been the more consistent wide receiver this season, finished with just 1 catch for 8 yards on 5 targets, and a couple of those were drops. This unit performs better when the offense leans more evenly on both receivers, and tonight they didn't. And then there's the backbone of the team right now, the defense playing at a championship level. From the edge to the interior to the back end, this group is suffocating quarterbacks, erasing run games, and forcing offenses into hopeless situations. The addition of Jalen Phillips has completely transformed the pass rush. His blend of power, speed, and relentless effort is changing games. 5 tackles, a tackle for loss, a sack, and 2 quarterback hits in this one. Pair that with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Ojomo, arguably the best interior trio in football, and you get a front that destroys pockets snap after snap. Carter batting down passes, Davis blowing up plays, Ojomo making the 4th and 1 stop on Gibbs that swung momentum. These are championship-level contributions. Add in Quinn Mitchell playing like an all-pro, Cooper DeJean locking down the nickel roll, Adoree Jackson stabilizing the outside despite 1 tough rep, and Nakobe Dean emerging as a complete, sideline-to-sideline playmaker who is rapidly pricing himself into a massive contract. And you have a defense that isn't just good, it's young, it's cheap for now, and it's dominating top offenses on the biggest stages. This should be the moment the entire city feels confident about a repeat Super Bowl run. But deep down, everyone knows the truth. The offense must rise to meet the standard the defense is setting. It can't rely on being carried through December, into January, and into the postseason. There's too much talent, there's too much at stake, and there's too small a window before all these young defensive stars need to get paid. So the question that hangs over everything after tonight is simple, and it's the one I want to leave with you to close out this first part. With the way this offense is playing right now, do you believe the Eagles can truly compete for another Super Bowl this season? Picking up right where we left off, The tension between this elite, smothering defense and the sputtering, disjointed offense isn't just a talking point, it's the defining storyline of the Eagles' season. And as we look deeper into how this dynamic is shaping the team's identity, the frustration becomes even more understandable. Because when a defense is performing at a historically high level, when it's shutting down two of the league's top offenses in back-to-back weeks, when it's winning games almost single-handedly, the expectations for the offense don't just rise, they become unavoidable. This defense is doing everything necessary to create a championship pathway. Against Detroit, they held Jared Goff to 14 of 37 passing. They strangled the Lions on money downs, allowing just 3 conversions on 3rd and 4th down combined. They generated pressure from every angle, collapsed pockets, forced Goff into uncomfortable throws, and dictated the tempo of the game. This wasn't luck. This wasn't weather. This was domination. And when a defense plays at that level, the only thing standing between this team and a Super Bowl is offensive consistency. And that's where the urgency grows thicker. Kevin Patullo's play calling hasn't developed the rhythm a unit like this needs. There are predictable sequences, an inability to stack plays, a lack of balance between taking what the defense gives and forcing predetermined concepts. Even the tush-push, an automatic weapon for years, was stuffed. When you can't rely on your bread and butter play, it exposes how far out of sync the entire structure is. And if this continues into January, it's not just a weakness, it becomes a liability that elite playoff defenses will exploit. But this isn't solely on Patullo. Jalen Hurts has to elevate his play. There are throws he normally hits that he's not connecting on. There are windows he's hesitating on. There are moments where he needs to trust his instincts but instead looks uncertain. And when the weather isn't a factor for the opponent, it can't be an excuse for him. The fan base expects him to be the difference maker, the steadying force, the engine that keeps the offense running regardless of circumstances. And he's been that at times this season, but not often enough in the moments that matter most. That's what makes this stretch so maddening, because we've seen this offense at its best. We know what it can be. We know the potential is there to match the defense's dominance. But potential doesn't win championships, execution does. And right now, the offense is falling behind while the defense is sprinting ahead. Still, there's a real path forward. This team is 8-2, in control of the NFC, with a defense capable of carrying them deep into the postseason. If the offense finds even a fraction of the rhythm they showed earlier in the year, this team becomes a nightmare for anyone in January. The question is whether that spark is coming, and whether it's coming soon enough. Because if they secure home field advantage, if they lock in the bye, if they let this defense feast in front of a roaring Lincoln Financial Field crowd, the door is wide open for a run at history. Back-to-back titles is reserved for the Chiefs, the Patriots, the dynasty-level teams of decades past. And that's the tier this roster belongs in if the offense holds up its end. So now it's in the hands of the coaching staff and the quarterback to turn frustration into momentum. It's in the hands of A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith to reset the balance and refocus on execution over ego. It's in the hands of Patullo to adapt, evolve, and find something that sticks before it's too late. Because this defense has done more than enough to earn that chance. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear directly from you. Do you believe the offense will flip the switch down the stretch? Or are you worried this inconsistency is going to drag down what could be a historic season? Drop your thoughts. Hit that like button if you want more breakdowns like this. Subscribe to the channel, and stick around. There's another video waiting for you on screen. Picking up right from that final thought, the conversation around this team becomes even more fascinating when you step back and look at the bigger picture. Because the Eagles aren't just fighting for wins right now, they're fighting against the weight of their own expectations, their own potential, and the shrinking window created by a defense that is young, dominant, and about to get very expensive. Every snap matters in a season like this, and every struggle on offense feels magnified because the margin for error on a championship-caliber roster is razor thin. This defense has set the standard so high that anything less than complimentary football feels like underachievement. When Jalen Carter is batting down multiple passes, Jordan Davis is collapsing pockets like a veteran All-Pro, and Moro Ojomo is knifing through for drive-ending tackles, you don't just celebrate, you recognize that this level of play doesn't come around every year. Quinn Mitchell looking like an All-Pro as a rookie, Cooper DeJean locking down the slot, Nakobe Dean showing the athleticism and leadership of a future defensive centerpiece. The foundation is elite, and that's exactly why the offensive issues are so hard for fans to swallow. Because if this offense even hits average consistency, the Eagles become nearly unstoppable. They don't need 40 points. They don't need fireworks. They need rhythm, trust, and execution, 3 things that have been missing far too often in these last 2 games. And all of it loops back to the same tension. Can they fix this quickly enough to match the level the defense is already playing at? And the truth is, the answer will likely determine the entire fate of the 2025 season. If the offense keeps stumbling, if the missed throws continue, if the play calling remains predictable, then the pressure on the defense grows until it becomes unsustainable. No defense, no matter how dominant, can carry a team through a full playoff run without help. But if the offense finds its footing, even slightly, then this becomes the type of team nobody wants to see in January, especially not in Philadelphia with home field advantage on the line. This is why fans are divided right now. Some believe the offense will snap out of it, that Hurts' highs outweigh the lows, that Patullo will adjust, and that the talent on this roster is too strong to stay stuck in neutral. Others look at the inconsistency and worry that this is who they are offensively, up and down, hot and cold, never quite synced long enough to string together dominant stretches. And that's the storyline we'll be tracking every single week from now until the postseason. Not whether the defense can keep the Eagles in games, they've already proven that, but whether the offense can hold up its end, eliminate the self-inflicted issues, and rise to the level of a team that legitimately wants to run it back and make history. If they do, we're talking about a team capable of taking down anyone, anywhere. If they don't, we're talking about a season that might fall short despite having a defense built to win a championship. Now I want to hear from you again. After everything you've seen, everything you felt watching these games, and everything this roster is capable of, do you believe the Eagles' offense will respond and match the level of this defense before the playoffs arrive? Continuing from that exact point, the heart of this entire conversation becomes sharper the deeper we go into what this team is showing us right now. Because every piece of evidence on the table points to one undeniable truth. The Eagles' defense is performing like a unit ready to win a championship today, while the offense is performing like a unit still searching for its identity halfway through November. And that contrast is shaping the emotional whiplash fans feel after every win. It's hard to celebrate fully when one side of the ball looks unstoppable and the other looks like it's fighting uphill every single series. What makes this even more compelling is the way the defense is stepping into moments with absolute confidence. Jalen Phillips' arrival has been one of the most impactful additions this team has seen in years. From the moment he stepped on the field, his presence changed everything. How protections shifted, how quarterbacks reacted, how the rest of the front could operate. Pairing him with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Ojomo has created a front that isn't just strong, it's suffocating. They're collapsing pockets before plays even develop, forcing quarterbacks into rushed decisions, and erasing rushing lanes with brute force and elite technique. And as if the front wasn't enough, the secondary is thriving behind them. Quinn Mitchell is playing beyond his age, diagnosing plays instantly, mirroring receivers like a seasoned veteran, and making impact plays week after week. Cooper DeJean is erasing slot options with discipline and quickness. Adoree Jackson is giving the defense stability on the outside even when he takes a tough rep. And Nakobe Dean? He's becoming the heartbeat of the second level. Watching him go stride for stride with explosive playmakers like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams tells you everything you need to know about where his athleticism is and how fully he's recovered. These aren't normal plays. They're the plays only elite, special linebackers make. But with all of that, every bit of dominance, every bit of progress, every bit of game-changing talent, the lens still turns back to the same pressure point. Can the offense elevate to match what the defense is giving them? Because the most frustrating part of all of this for fans is the belief, rightfully so, that this team has the talent to hang 30 points on anyone. They have a franchise quarterback who has already proven he can perform on the biggest stages. They have receivers talented enough to take over games. They have a running back capable of winning one-on-one matchups in space. They have an offensive line that has the experience to anchor a unit in critical moments. So when you watch the offense stall, miss open receivers, struggle with sequencing, and play disjointed football in crucial situations, it creates a spotlight that grows hotter every week. Not because fans are unfair, not because expectations are unrealistic, but because this team is built to win now. The defense is too good, the window is too clear, and the opportunity is too rare to let the offense continue to lag behind. And this is where it becomes a true pivot point for the season. The Eagles are 8-2. They hold the number 1 seed. They control their destiny in the NFC. And they have a clear path to become one of the few teams in NFL history to win back-to-back championships. But that path narrows if the offense doesn't improve. The good news? They don't need perfection. They don't need to be the 2017 offense or the 2022 offensive juggernaut. They just need consistency, rhythm, and execution. If they find it, this team becomes the kind of force that rolls into the postseason with momentum, confidence, and the kind of balance that terrifies opponents. If they don't, then every playoff game becomes a high-wire act with no room for error. So now, as we wrap this up, the conversation turns directly to you once again. After everything you've seen, after watching this defense dominate and the offense struggle to match their level, do you think the Eagles will find that offensive rhythm they desperately need before the postseason? Picking up again from that exact moment, the weight of this season becomes even clearer when you look not just at where the Eagles are, but at what they could be if the offense finally clicks into place. Because the truth is, this team is inching incredibly close to something rare, a roster good enough to win without playing its best football, yet capable of becoming nearly unbeatable if both sides of the ball sync up at the same time. And that's what has made these past 2 weeks so polarizing among fans. You see a defense performing at a historic level, but an offense that hasn't matched that urgency, that confidence, or that precision. And that gap between the two units doesn't just show up in the box score, it shows up in the body language, the decision-making, the rhythm, and even in the reaction from players on the sideline. A.J. Brown's frustration has boiled into public view again, leading to conversations with Big Dom and Jeffrey Lurie. These aren't minor moments. Anytime an owner gets involved, it signals that internal expectations aren't being met. But frustration only matters if it leads to solutions, and that's where the challenge lies. Because if the offense starts forcing the ball to A.J. Brown at the expense of the flow of the game, the entire structure becomes predictable and easier to defend. And that's exactly what happened. A heavy volume of targets without the explosive production the team needed. Meanwhile, DeVonta Smith, who has been the more consistent receiver this season, barely touched the ball. And that imbalance speaks to the larger issue. The offense isn't distributing responsibility, it's reacting to emotion. Great offenses don't operate from a place of reaction, they operate from identity. And right now, this offense is still trying to figure out what that identity even is under Kevin Patullo. The fascinating part is that everything this team needs is already in the building. Jalen Hurts has the talent to elevate the offense. A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith have the ability to dominate defenses when given opportunities in rhythm. Saquon Barkley can be a difference maker in space when the scheme actually creates those opportunities. And the offensive line, while needing more consistency, still has the leadership and experience to anchor the unit in critical moments. What's missing is cohesion. What's missing is trust. What's missing is a sense of structure that builds over the course of a game rather than getting tangled in predictable patterns. And yet, through all the concerns, this team keeps winning. They keep finding ways. They keep leaning on their greatest strength, a defense that looks ready to carry them deep into January. But no matter how great this defense becomes, it still can't guarantee a championship unless the offense meets them halfway. Because the deeper the Eagles go into the postseason, the more they'll face teams capable of capitalizing on every offensive mistake, every stalled drive, every missed layup throw. So the question becomes, will this offense use the pressure as fuel or will it let that pressure define them? Will Jalen Hurts find the consistency he had earlier in the season? Will Kevin Patullo evolve his play calling and unlock the full potential of the roster? Will the balance between A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith finally return to its natural state? These aren't small details. These are the factors that will determine whether the Eagles make history or fall short of a golden opportunity. And now, just like before, I want to turn it over to you. After watching the highs and lows of these recent performances, after seeing how dominant the defense is and how uneven the offense has been, where do you stand? Do you believe the offense is going to find the rhythm they need to complete this championship puzzle? Continuing exactly from that point, the bigger picture becomes even more urgent as you step back and look at what this season is shaping into. Because the Eagles aren't just navigating a stretch of uneven offensive play, they're navigating the consequences that come with having one of the youngest, cheapest, and most dominant defenses in the NFL right now, knowing full well that this window won't stay open forever. When you have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, Quinn Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Nakobe Dean all producing at this level, all on rookie deals or low-cost contracts, you're living in a moment that championship teams are built upon. These are the seasons where everything is aligned for a Super Bowl run. These are the seasons where the margin for error shrinks not because of pressure, but because of opportunity. And that's what makes every sputtering offensive performance feel like a missed chance. It's why fans are torn between celebrating another win and questioning how far this version of the team can really go. Because while the defense continues to deliver masterpiece after masterpiece, confusing quarterbacks, overwhelming protections, shutting down run lanes, and dominating critical downs, the offense keeps getting stuck in neutral at the worst possible moments. The frustration isn't rooted in negativity, it's rooted in standards. When the defense forces turnovers on downs, generates sacks, bats down passes at the line, and suffocates top-level talent, fans expect the offense to reward those efforts with points. Instead, the offense has been leaving the field too quickly, missing timing throws, failing to capitalize on short fields, and showing a lack of structure that makes every yard feel heavier than it needs to be. And that disconnect becomes even more dramatic when you consider how simple the corrections could be. Instead of forcing the ball to A.J. Brown just to keep him happy, The offense needs to return to what worked earlier in the season, spreading the ball, trusting DeVonta Smith more often, letting Saquon Barkley operate out of open formations, and giving Jalen Hurts early completions that settle him into a rhythm. This offense doesn't need to reinvent itself. It just needs to stop fighting itself. Because the worst-case scenario isn't losing games. It's wasting the kind of defensive season that doesn't come around often. A defense that holds opponents to brutal stats on 3rd and 4th down. A defense that forces quarterbacks into panic. A defense that stops elite playmakers cold. A defense that, on its own, is giving the team everything it needs to compete for a championship. What makes this even more intriguing is that the path to the number 1 seed is still right in front of them. They control their own destiny. They've already beaten 2 high-level opponents since the bye. They continue to show resilience in hostile environments. And the defense is playing playoff football in November. If the offense gets even marginally better, just functional better, not perfect, this team shifts from being dangerous to being a full-fledged contender. And now, as we step further into this stretch of the season, the question becomes more pressing. How long can the Eagles ask their defense to play at this level without matching them on the other side of the ball? How long can they walk this tightrope where one slip, one missed throw, one stalled drive could be the difference between home field advantage and a wild card path? This is where you, the fans, come in. Because the tension, the hope, the frustration, and the belief all collide here. You know how good this team can be. You've seen it. You've lived it. You've watched this defense announce to the league that they are a Super Bowl unit. Now the offense just has to do their part. So once again, I want to hear from you directly. After seeing the defense dominate week after week while the offense tries to catch up, do you believe the Eagles will finally bring both sides together when it matters most?